Hi, my name is Priscilla. I am an Army veteran and I've debated a pretty long time about being open and talking about my mental health and just my own personal experiences as a veteran and everything that I'm going through personally in my life. I know that a lot of people can relate, and maybe it can help a few people to not be afraid to talk about being depressed or being anxious or having a fear of going in public or being very irritable around strangers. I know for a fact when I go out in public, I struggle with paranoia, and if there's crowds, it makes me super anxious and I can't really relax or enjoy a meal or just an outing because I'm trying to think of a possible way out if anything happens, or I make sure that I'm aware of where the exits are and the people. I never stop looking at people, and it kind of takes away from enjoying the moment and being in the moment with my boyfriend. And I know it doesn't bother him because he can relate to what I'm feeling, being in the Army Guard for 6 years and also being in the reserve. But recently I've noticed within myself that I've really felt like I've been weighed down and like there was no way I was gonna get through it. It's very overwhelming. I haven't ever been driven to that point of feeling like I don't want to be here anymore. But I have felt like I don't want to go anywhere. I do suffer from depression, and it was something that I wasn't really willing to admit for the longest time, just because being in the Hispanic culture, you don't really talk about your mental health. It's kind of taboo or not something that you talk about because you're taught to stay strong, don't show weakness, don't cry. At least in my family, that was something that I grew up trying to emulate and sing from my parents. So I thought crying meant I was weak. And I didn't want people to see that I was weak. And even today, I struggle with being able to cry in front of people. I try to keep it in if I'm in public. I also only cry around like people that I really trust. And I know that's something that I need to work on because I hold it in. I hold a lot of my emotions in, and they just continue to build up and just build on each other. And finally, I end up having a panic attack. Had a panic attack, I want to say 3 or 4 days ago, or sometime this week, and it was the worst one that I've ever had. I couldn't breathe. I was crying nonstop. My dogs were just looking at me. Didn't know what to do, obviously. But it lasted for about 40 minutes. And even then, I still had a hard time breathing. And I kind of freaked out because, I'm home alone. My boyfriend's at annual training. My family's back in California. And I've never really had to deal with panic attacks up until this year. I've had a lot of stress, dealt with a lot of health issues, and I think I've held a lot in, and instead of talking about it and sharing it and getting it out, I usually just bottle it in and say I'm fine, when the truth is I'm not fine and I need help. So if anybody is in the same shoes and feels like people aren't going to understand or they don't want to show weakness, they're too prideful, you're not the only one. Especially veterans, I've known quite a bit of people who have been suicidal, and it hits pretty close to home. I mean, my father suffered from PTSD and alcoholism, and about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he was in a really dark place, and it was scary. I really thought we were gonna lose him, and he had a hard time opening up and really dealing with things that he had kept bottled up. And this was when he was in his early 40s, and we didn't know what to do. We really didn't, and it was scary. Mental health is not something to ignore. It's not something to really put off, because our mental health and our physical health go hand in hand. I know if I'm exhausted or I'm depressed or I'm just in my head overthinking, overanalyzing things, I tend to realize that my body kind of isn't at its best. I'm in a lot more physical pain than I am when I'm happy, have a clear mind, and my mental health is in a good place. So I just want people to not be afraid to talk about it. Mental health is one of the most important things that we need to take care of. You know, they usually say midlife crisis. Oh, he's suffering a midlife crisis, or she's suffering a midlife crisis. But really, you know, a lot of us are taught to keep things in, to not share, to hide our pain, to not really talk about it. And, you know, like the analogy of a cup, and all of your troubles and worries go into the cup, and eventually it pours out because the cup can only hold so many things. So think about it, and really, really, I would say, focus on yourself. You are important. You matter. Your pain matters. Moving past it matters. A lot of it can be dealt with through therapy, and also opening up and not being afraid to share. I know that I opened up to my boyfriend, and I opened up to family, and it really felt like I had a weight lifted off of my shoulders. It really made such a difference, and I can't believe that I didn't think of it sooner. I know I'm not the only one. I know people who also suffer from anxiety and depression or other mental illnesses, addiction, because addiction is a disease, and usually it's rooted in something traumatic that somebody experiences or seen or has done. So just remember, you are important, and you can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of yourself.